There's always an upside to the downside and a downside to the upside. Have you noticed how whenever you are infatuated with something or someone, that after a while it turns out that that person or situation was not as fantastic as you made it up to be in your mind? And have you noticed how one of the darkest times in your life have been the source for your greatest personal and spiritual transformations? Okay? So, learning to become aware of the downsides whenever we are infatuated or extremely overly excited about something, and learning to become aware of the upsides whenever we find ourselves in darker places, can be an incredibly valuable practice. And so one of the ways that I discovered this to be very helpful is whenever I feel resentful towards someone. Okay, when we resent, we judge. There is judgment. We put ourselves above other people. There is pride. We look down on people. Okay, we resent them because they've maybe hurt us in the past, or we feel like they are embodying certain personality traits that we judge within ourselves. There are so many different reasons why we would resent other people. Now, when we resent, we have a bias towards the negative in that person. Okay? Bring someone to mind that you really don't like, that you perhaps really resent. It's very easy to come up with ways why you resent this person, why they're a bad person. It's very easy to do that, right? Now, this keeps you stuck. This keeps you stuck in the resentment. This keeps you stuck in the negativity, and you can't move on and forgive and transmute the energy that is there because it's trapped, okay? Life is always trying to balance things out. There is an upside to the downside and a downside to the upside. So this person that you resent, okay, make a list of all the things that you resent about this person. This is an exercise that I personally experimented with growing up whenever I had very, very strong affects against someone. Make a list, okay? Maybe you can easily list out 10, 20 things that you hate about this person or that you dislike. Now, the magic comes in when you try to make another list with an equal amount of positive things about this person. And you can't stop until you have reached the equal amount, okay? You want to balance it out, okay? Because once you will start looking, you will find good things about this person. And you will find good things about the negative interactions you had with this person. Maybe they judged you for something, and that made you really aware of it, that made you think about it, that made you change and develop yourself in a positive way. So, the main idea that I want to present you here with is whenever you feel like you are out of balance, both in the positive direction and the negative direction, stay conscious of the fact that you are overestimating or overvaluing certain aspects of this experience or situation or person, and there's a lot of negative things that you are not taking into consideration right now, which will eventually rise to the surface. Okay? Likewise, in the other situation where you find yourself in a lower phase, there's a lot of things you subconsciously are not paying attention to that are benefits, that are positive. Okay, and I preach balance on this channel. I really believe that acquiring a state of balance is very important if you want to relieve your suffering as much as possible. Because going too much into the blissful state, the joy, the excitement, there is a cost that will come back to you at some point. Sooner or later, you will pay the cost. And I've gone through that myself many times, okay? I fell hopelessly in love with girls that I eventually ended up in a relationship with, and the dynamic was extremely toxic. Now, that is because, of course, there's a lot of shadows within both ourselves, and I firmly believe, as within, so without. Having is proof of wanting. So there were certain aspects to my personality that actually enjoyed this toxic dynamic, okay? The rejection, the pain, the manipulation. I enjoyed this. This is a dark side to my personality that I learned to become conscious of. This is what shadow work is basically all about. It's to become aware of these darker sides to our personality and bringing them into the light, becoming aware of the negative of the positive, okay, and becoming aware of the positive of the negative. And our egos don't like to do shadow work. We want to believe that we are kind, compassionate people who don't lie, who don't have a hunger for power and validation, okay? We want to believe that we are decent, kind, compassionate people. But I can almost assure you that at least at some point in your life, you had desires for things that are considerably not okay or that are judged in societal terms. And that causes you to suppress them. You feel shame, you don't want to acknowledge that you have these desires and you suppress them. But it's like a trash can where you put the trash in the trash can and you keep putting more on top, on top, on top. It's not going to empty itself, okay? The stuff that is at the bottom is still there and is going to rot and foster and create all kinds of stinky odors, okay? Until you take out the trash and you put a new bag and you work through all the things that you have been suppressing, it will not actually resolve itself. And that is something I became painfully aware of, okay? I fell into the same patterns, for example, with my relationships over and over again until I became aware of this kind of inner desire for me to find myself in such a toxic dynamic. And once I became aware of it, I could work through it. I could ask myself, what do you want from this? Why do you value this type of dynamic? What is it that you get out of it? Okay, what part of your personality is it speaking to? And by having this conversation with myself, I made these points conscious, okay? I, for example, had a very intense shame about my existence. So I needed to have an intense person to validate that I was worth to fight for. I was worth to create drama for, okay? It felt like a high almost when my girlfriends were creating drama, okay? When we were fighting, it meant at least that I was relevant, okay? Because hate is not the absence of love. Apathy is, okay? When there is hate, there is still emotional relevance, okay? When there is conflict, there is still emotional relevance. When someone completely tunes out and there is complete apathy, that is the absence of love because you simply don't care. Okay, that is way more painful, all right? So getting into these toxic dynamics, it made me feel relevant. It made me feel like I mattered. But until I made this conscious, this process repeated itself over and over again because at some point the relationship blows up, right? You can't sustain such toxic dynamics. Usually I can't, I couldn't. And which is a great thing because it's basically my subconscious that is trying to bring up these issues. And then you do the shadow work, you integrate these darker parts in your personality. You make the unconscious conscious, then you can move past it, you can integrate it. You can meet the need for yourself that you were trying to meet by these toxic behaviors. And so the breakups that I went through, for example, they were horribly painful, okay? But there was a big upside to them as well because they allowed me to become aware of these shadow parts. They allowed me to move forward. They allowed me to improve and explore myself and grow myself as a person. Personal transformation. Every single time after every breakup I went through, I had a massive personal transformation, which is fantastic, okay? But initially, for example, when the relationship started, there was adoration, there was infatuation, and I viewed my girlfriends as the perfect people, right? Which of course they were not. So there was a downside to that upside of excitement, okay? There was a price that was being paid. And let's all be honest here, the toxic kind of relationship dynamics, they are very addictive, very exciting, very stimulating. So they're easy to fall into. Now I'm getting older and I'm kind of, I don't really resonate with that stuff too much anymore. I'm kind of tired of these games and these toxic dynamics because I did the shadow work, because I came to understand what was the reason I was falling into these patterns over and over and over again, okay? And now I don't resonate with that anymore. So I attract different people in my life who no longer play these types of games because I don't play these types of games anymore, okay? So there was a huge upside to that downside, and there was a huge downside to the upside of the thrill and the excitement of these toxic dynamics. So maybe you can take a moment right now to become aware of whatever situation that's on your mind, whether you are in the extreme excited stage or whether you are in the more, negatively oriented phase in your life. Become aware of the upsides of this negative state, or become aware of the downsides of this positive state. Okay? And if you find yourself feeling resentment towards someone or something, it can even be yourself. Okay? Make a list of all the things you dislike about this person or this situation, and then make an equally long list of all the good things, the positive things. Because I can assure you that all the negative things that you judge in this person or situation are things you indirectly judge about yourself, okay? Or things that you are denying within yourself, that you are not acknowledging. So you can do a lot of work on that. You can become aware of all the things that you are disowning, okay? These are the things that you dislike. You're disowning this within yourself. And you can discover a lot about your own personality and the blind spots that you're currently unwilling to look at. By doing that, you will integrate and you will release this energy and you will integrate it into your personality, and you will become a more well-rounded person who is able to show more compassion, more understanding to others. And that is ultimately what I value most, to be able to show compassion and understanding and kindness and to be a good person. All right, so make a list of the good things too, and become aware that this is just a person just like you, who has flaws and who has positive things about them. There is no such thing as a just completely bad person. Okay, maybe there's a few in the history of humankind, all right, but in general, people in our lives, they have good and bad sides to them, just like you and me. Okay, so become aware of those, do some work, do some introspection, journal a little bit about these things, and you will find yourself shifting your perspective in basically any situation. All right, guys, so I hope that was helpful. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you would like to see more content like this on the channel, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.